Welcome to the Black on the Block podcast, where we're all about preserving the black family. Everything is pro-black, but don't get it twisted. We respect everyone, but we love our people first.
What up, y'all? This is your soul sister, K. Marie, and we are Black on the Block.
This your favorite guy, Coach Scrap, and you listen to Black on the Block podcast.
This is your humble servant, Pops, and you are listening to Black on the Block.
Hey, y'all. This your girl, Nika B. Welcome to Black on the Block.
Say, open the door, let me in. Teach your song, preach your sins. Turn the cheek, let it slide. Give 5 on the black hand side.
What's going on? We back on the block. We always try to keep it hot. Got my girl, K. Marie, with me. What's going on?
Hello, how are you all?
Good. Nika B. Hey. What's up? Man?
Hey, y'all.
And the humble servant, Pops. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I'm still hanging in there like a rusty fish hook.
It's always good to hear. We just gonna jump right into it. Today we have a special guest on. December 1st is National AIDS Awareness Month.
Yes.
Is it for the whole month, or is just it starts the date, right?
It's yes, it's World AIDS Day. And World AIDS Day is actually on December 1st.
Right. So I'm gonna go introduce Ms. Gwin. So let me ask you, I want to make sure I get it right because I don't want to be saying the wrong thing all podcast. So is it Sonja? Sonja. I like that. How to spell? I like that. Okay. I think in our community, something that we've kind of gotten away from as far as talking about it, bringing it up in homes. I remember being a kid when I was young, and it like scared me. The first two people I heard of was like Magic Johnson and Eazy-E.
Yeah.
And so like, and that thing like went crazy. Like you were scared to mess with anybody. But I remember that. And there was something that was always talked about a whole lot on TV, in the household, amongst just other people.
Ms. Gwin, could you tell us what you do, your agency and your role at your agency as we get into this topic? Yes, I am with Children and Family Services. We are headquartered in Covington, Tennessee. We have offices in Jackson. I'm the executive director at Children and Family Services.
So good.
I've been in that role for about a year and a half, and I've learned a lot basically from being in the role. Mary Jones was the previous director and had been in that role for well over 20 years. So there were a number of things that they had taken on over the last, say, 15 or so years that were very valuable to the Black community, but also to just various communities around. So we actually are responsible for about 14 counties in the West Tennessee area. And we do a number of different services. So one of the main services that we do, because we are grant funded by the Tennessee Department of Health and by United Way, to do HIV testing, Hep C testing, and then to provide case management to people who live in rural communities in West Tennessee. So we serve basically from Tipton County all the way up to from Tipton County all the way up to like Savannah. So we go all the way up to the river basically, and offer services to various people in various communities. Our goal is to spread information about to educate, to motivate, and to inspire people to do different things. But our goal, because we are grant funded for those services for testing, and then for also managing care afterward. So we do case management after a person is if a person happens to get a positive diagnosis, we are then responsible for case management for that person. So we help them with things like food, transportation, as well as housing. Those are 3 of the things that we provide or assist them with. So if a person is homeless, for instance, we try to find them somewhere to live. We provide them with rental assistance if necessary. we do food boxes anyway through the Feeding America program, but we also provide, say, food cards to people who are in need of food, because we also know that we live in food deserts. So that's one of the reasons that we also provide the food boxes, because it may be easier for us to get a food box to a person than it is for that person to try to travel and do and go shopping in an area where they may not have the best options in terms of food sources. So we've been in business for about 41 years total. We have been in the HIV and Hep C programs for well over 15 years. And what I'm doing now is we're trying to step people into, I guess, into a new phase, because what Coach Scrap said is very much an issue in the community. People are not educated. People do not have the information that they need in order to, number one, prevent themselves from contracting HIV. And they don't have the information once they contract it to know what to do, where to go, and what resources might be available to them.
Right.
And we're making great strides and changes in all of that. So we do events, we do educational events, we do testing events. Um, we are we also make sure that in addition to the testing and the education, that people have access to the other resources that we may have available. For instance, we do food boxes 3 days a week in the Covington office for anybody in Lauderdale, Haywood, and Tipton County. All you have to do is call in at 10 o'clock. And on Tuesdays at 10, I'm sorry. We at Tuesdays at 10, we take telephone calls, and then we provide an appointment for people to come pick up food boxes. And that's just to the general public. That's not for all clients. Does that make sense?
Right. Let me ask you a
Um,
question. Before you keep going, let me ask you a question. We you spoke on the phone calls that come. You said on Wednesday,
on Tuesdays,
Tuesdays at 10
we
o'clock.
take those phone calls at 10 o'clock.
So let me ask you this, just in case somebody is listening, because I'm in a different state or whatever. So let's just say somebody was to call down there, because we definitely gonna put the information out how to get in touch with you guys. But let's say somebody was to call and they're not in those areas that you named. Would you all be able to give them some assistance on where they could go, or who they can call, or who they need to get in touch with, so they can get that same type of care?
We have various resources throughout the state of Tennessee, where we would be able to provide you with other resources that are available in different markets,
Right.
especially across West Tennessee. So we do know that because we have offices in Jackson, there are people, of course, in Madison County who we are also able to provide boxes to, because they'll drive all the way back to Covington in order to get it.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
We have really good food boxes, by the way.
Y'all ain't got no oxtails none up in there, do you?
We did last week, actually.
Hey.
Did you?
I want a box. Yes, we actually had oxtails in there.
Yeah,
They
what's the
came
number of
in,
that? What's the number?
So we actually did have oxtails and
Man.
pig ears. I have a set of pig ears, so I'm waiting on somebody to be able to. I'm asking people, hey, do you know anything about cooking pig ears? Because we actually do have stuff like that in the boxes. So we
Man, I'll
actually
be there
have,
every Tuesday.
we actually have real food in the boxes.
That's cool.
We do meats, we do produce, we do fresh produce. So you're not getting stuff in a can. You're actually getting stuff that you can actually cook and provide as a healthy resource to your family.
No, I love that. I've never and I've gave back a lot, and I've been a part of different things where we setting up and giving stuff. I've never seen that.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're passing out boxes. So,
You said,
and we're
hold on.
proud.
You said Monday,
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah.
And Friday.
So,
Oh God.
yeah, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So what we do is we take appointments basically and tell you what day you'd come in and pick up a food box. Those are just things that we do. Because we do have people who are coming into the office, of course, for healthcare management, basically. we try to mask our services. So we have a number of things that we do in addition to just having people come in for, HIV and Hep C testing.
Right.
Part of that reason is because, and I'll talk a little bit about this, there are still stigmas that are surrounding, having HIV. It is a fairly, I don't want to say it's a common thing at this point, but it's more common than we think. And I'll give you a couple of, I hate to pass out a whole bunch of statistics, but you kind of have to.
Yeah.
But my statistics are also, they are also indicative of society in general and how HIV is actually perceived. And I'll throw a couple of numbers out for you, and then I'll give you just some general information that I think is going to be necessary to our community. Number one, 47% of newly diagnosed cases as of 2022, 47% of newly diagnosed cases of HIV were Black women. And in addition to that, less than half of what testing we do actually is focused, or the testing events that we do are actually focused on Black women. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they are focused on, for instance, the LGBTQIA community. Of course, there's a lot of focus because, of course, that is where people are most focused, and also still think that is the greatest community in which HIV exists, and that's not true. HIV exists very heavily in the Black community, but of course, 47% of new cases being diagnosed or with Black women, that is a sign that we have a couple of different problems. And I'll give you just some statistics that are based on what is happening in West Tennessee, in the rural areas. We've heard about, and I'll just be blatantly honest. Memphis has a high run right now of HIV cases, as well as cases of syphilis. Of course, with Memphis being one of the larger cities in the area, that spills over into smaller markets that exist around it. Tipton County is right across the line from Shelby County. So, of course, we're seeing a little bit of that. And it touches a number of places because that's the place that you go for a lot of things. Like, if you're going to the mall, that's kind of where you have to go. If you're going to do any type of major shopping, for the most part, you're going to have to cross through Memphis in order to do it if you're in one of those smaller markets. And the issue that exists also is that they're also looking at specific age groups for the most part now, because from 13 to 25 are also a number that has high spread of HIV. Yes, I did say 13,
Wow.
which is another issue. But in the rural markets, what I have found is that the people that we have had to test over the last couple of years who have tested positive have been people from 44 to 65. And there's a reason for that. I call it the D&D era, and that is divorce and death. People's spouses and partners are either because of other items that exist in our community, like high blood pressure, diabetes, and other things. We, of course, may die at earlier ages, which has historically been the case, and we all know that. But with that, we have left partners who are now looking for new partners. And it's great that you brought this up, Coach Scrap, because one of the things that we talk about is, in 1992, when HIV was at its height, it was marketed very well, I think, because there were certain people like Magic Johnson and others who were high profile who were willing to step up and speak out
Right.
about having HIV and actually living with HIV. And as we know, Magic Johnson is the poster child for that, actually, because he continues to live a very healthy life living with HIV. But has anybody been 50 years old since then? Are you born and you're 50? It doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay, no. So that means that those same people who were living in 1992, who may indeed be living with HIV, are still living, if they are still alive and well at this date, which means we don't have a new populace in that market, right?
Right.
It's all the same people. So the numbers really haven't changed. Does that make sense?
Right.
So if your partner is passed away or has passed away, or if you have gone through a divorce through those years, then you are seeking a new partner more than likely, or you are out here doing the most, as we used to say. And if that's the case, we don't tend to protect ourselves the same way we didn't protect ourselves back in 1992. So it's very important that people use one of the other things that we do is we do condom distribution. And one of the reasons that we do it is, of course, for preventative measures. And our point is to make sure that people have access to prophylactics, and that people also have access to information about other things that could be available to them that will help them to help us all mitigate the spread of HIV. So there's also a pill called PrEP. And PrEP is a preventative pill that you are able to take that will prevent you from being able to, for lack of a better word, catch HIV from another person who may be carrying. So the goal in that is to explain to women that PrEP is also a drug that they are able to use. And then it will help in the prevention of the spread of HIV.
Mm.
I don't think a
You
lot
know,
of women.
I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you something about that prep. Do you think that sometimes there's an unintended consequence that will make a person have a false sense of security because they are taking that particular pill? So it kind of makes them relax a little bit.
It does. So the use of a prophylactic may, because you feel like you feel like you have a sense of protection, right? It's the same thing about, let's talk about this, ladies, the pill, right? Can't get pregnant, I'm on the pill, right?
Right.
But there are other things, there are other systemic things that happen in addition to just taking the pill, because you're not protecting yourself against any disease or any virus that another person may be carrying, which is another issue that we need to address in our community. So we need to protect ourselves at all costs, because, I hate to say this, but the Black woman is a national treasure, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Love them.
And the goal here is, there are a number of things that are happening in our society in general anyway, that have caused, a great discourse amongst just us as Black women. It's almost like us against the world sometimes, because there are a number of things that are happening in the community, including the spread of HIV, that are not being communicated to Black women in general, and ways to be able to protect yourself and prevent it from happening to you. Of course, the use of condoms, prophylactics, and whether it is whether or not you're having sexual relations with one partner or several, you need to make sure that you're protecting yourself at all times. But the other piece to that is, there are also people who are out here who may have had a partner who has stepped out on them. And please remember this: the average person who is not engaged in a monogamous relationship has about 3 partners over a 5-year period.
Mm.
Those people, of course, now, and I'm the candid one. I'm sorry if y'all didn't know I was the candid one. But in addition to that, so if you have a partner who has stepped out on you, well, then that the person that partner has slept with has had on an average of maybe 3 partners as well, right? So let's just say that partner has cheated on you twice. That would be 6 people that you've invited into your body. And let's talk about how we have had a list of a bit of sexual freedom over the past 15 years where people are being more adventurous. And so a lot of people are talking about having poly relationships. Not only that, but also I say that the threesome was a big thing for the last 10 years.
Yeah,
And if you are engaging in that behavior, right, then that means that you basically have invited 9 other people into your circle. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It absolutely does. And I'll say this, Ms. Gwynn, if I could, I appreciate and I trust your numbers, but I honestly think that number is low. For three partners, like especially as much as sex is in our face every day. I think those are numbers that are being reported, but we never necessarily tell the truth, if that makes sense. And
No, that
I
makes
think,
perfect
yeah,
sense.
I
And
think that number
that's the number that we tell the doctor that
right,
we've had.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. So
right.
that's the number that and women especially when we
Yeah, I'm
go
about to say
into
that. That's y'all number. That's the women's number. 3. I've been hearing it all my life. 3.
I'm so sorry.
Some of that line.
I'm so sorry that I have let the cat out of the bag on that one. Yes, that's the number, right? And it's
Yeah.
also the number that we report when we go to the doctor, right? One of the things that women do report when they go to the doctor is the number of partners you've had, and they'll ask you the number of partners you've had in the last 24 months. That's normally what the sheet asks you. And I mean, the go-to number on that for what most doctors say is 3. And then as they start to talk to a patient, for instance, in a clinical setting, that number tends to grow sometimes because you're looking past, the last 24 months of your life. There may have been a partner that you inadvertently left out. But and my hope is that people who are engaging, and I'm just gonna let the Diddy effect is causing more people to be more open about the sexual relations that they've had.
Right.
And it's also causing you to really think more about how people are more sexually free, and telling other people, right?
Yeah.
Because what we're finding in that is that there are people that are on the list that you would have an expectation that would be on the list, right? One of the things that we talk through too is when you go to the doctor and you think that you have an STI, no matter what that STI may be, they do an STI culture for you. Did you know that you have to ask for HIV tests to be done in addition to that? It is
I
not
learned
part of the
that
STI.
recently.
And why
It
is
is
that?
not. Well, that's a great question. Because it is a blood draw, and the rest of them don't necessarily have to be a blood draw. So if you go in, for instance, and say that you think that you have um, uh, you may think that you have chlamydia or syphilis or gonorrhea. A lot of those are urine tests. And so they don't require that or if you say that you have, say, a kidney infection, that is for the most part not a blood draw, right? A lot of times when you go to the doctor, you may think that you have one thing and they explain to you that you have another. But you do have to make a request, a specific request, because if they're not, especially if they're not doing a blood draw, and even if they do a blood draw, they don't necessarily have to test it for HIV.
Right. And if I could, I will encourage women to make sure that you do ask for that. I had an experience this year. I entered a new relationship and I just wanted to be tested. And, I went and I got pushback on that. She asked me, well, I mean, how many sexual partners have you had in the last? And, I was offended, don't get me wrong. But also,
Absolutely.
I should not have had to request that more than once. At all. And so I think a lot of people would have cowered down and just, went with what the doctor stated. I ended up getting my test, but I think that's important too, to make sure, especially being a Black woman, when you go to the doctor, what you need to request and stand firm on that for sure. Even if something
Because
as simple as a STI test.
you did the right thing, because a lot of people do, like you say, they do cower back. They don't want to feel like they're promiscuous, right? They don't want to feel like somebody is prying into their sexual health and sexual
Right.
life. So they don't want to answer the questions.
Right.
And that's a huge problem. It's hard enough, especially say, for instance, for Black men, it's hard enough to get a Black man to go to the doctor, right?
Yeah, and Black men got to stop using women's results as their results.
True, very true. Very
Say
true.
it again, coach.
Got to stop it.
Yeah, she got tested, so I don't need to get
Yeah,
tested
she
because
good. So I'm good. I'm good for another
she's
5
good.
partners.
Yeah.
How much of this has to do with insurance and how much of this has to do with inadequate care that Black people often get in comparison to other groups of people?
Absolutely. There are two things. I have had the honor of being around Black doctors my whole life. So that has also been something that I have, questions that have been raised to them. Like, what is the deal about you trying to explain it to me when I'm asking for it, right? But the totality of that is, a lot of them don't want to. There's paperwork to be done, right? There's information that has to be gathered. There is also, they if they're going to tell you that, shouldn't they also tell you the places that are resources like us? We do free HIV testing. We come to you, right?
Cool.
So there are HIV screenings that are done a lot of different places, and they are free. The health department still exists, boys and girls. It does. And you can use it as an adult. We tend to use it when we're younger, but we don't tend to use it when we're of age. And there are a lot of clinics that also provide sliding scale care to people, which means that it's not going to cost as much as it would if you were going to your doctor's office anyway. And they may be able to utilize certain coding that will be able to assist you with getting care at a lesser rate. So there are a number of things that we need to know about. There are a lot of clinics that are out there that are able to provide services no matter where you are. In West Tennessee, we provide all free HIV services to people, and our HIV screening, which I call it a screening rather than a test. Who likes to take tests? Anybody on here like to take a test? Math test. We have a negative connotation with the word test, right? So screening is a better word for us. So we do HIV screenings all the time. The reason that we partner and have started to do Hep C is because it's the same draw for us. We do a finger stick. So if we're saying, hey, do you want to take a Hep C test, right? You're a whole lot more open to, since I already had my finger pricked and you can already, grab the blood from there, then why not do the HIV screen as well? Does that make sense?
Right.
It does. Miss Gwen, if somebody came in and got tested or screened rather, right? How soon can they expect their results back?
Oh, well, that's a great question. We do 20 minutes. You get your results from us in 20 minutes.
Oh Lord.
Yes. And in the event that you do test positive, that your screening is positive. Then we also give a secondary test, which is like an INSTI test, which you'd get the results back in 5 minutes. So we're going to, in the event of person, so I say testing positive is not a negative thing. We're able to get you into care. We're able to provide you with those other services that I talked about earlier. And we're going to walk you through the steps. So I think one of the other issues that we have is a lot of times when we are given a negative diagnosis, I think that, of course, any negative diagnosis, you are in denial, you're scared, you don't trust what the results are, which is why we do a double test, right? We do the first test to give you the information, but then in the event that you do test positive, we give you a secondary test because we want to confirm that it's true, right? And then we will connect you either with the health department. You can go to your own doctor if you so desire. Or we have other resources that are available in all the different markets that we served, so that you can go there and you can get follow-up care, which would include, doing a blood draw so that you can get medication. Because of course, as you know, you can live with HIV now. We don't call it you're dying from AIDS, or we don't call it you're dying with HIV. We say that you're living with HIV because that's very possible. And you can live for a number of years. It's not a death sentence anymore. But there are things that you have to do in order to make sure that you maintain your health. One of those things is making sure you go to the doctor, making sure that you are medically sound by taking your medication, and doing the appropriate follow-up to make sure that your numbers are where they should be, because you can be undetectable. And that goes back to your thing, Pops. Being undetectable still doesn't mean that you are not able to spread.
What are your thoughts ethically on that?
Well, because of the same things that we just talked about, people are gonna do the do no matter what you do, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna do
it.
Yeah. So if that being said, it's better to, especially if you know that you have HIV, to make sure that you're unable to spread it to other people. Does that make sense?
Now, do people have to tell even if they're undetectable? Is it a law or?
It's not really a law, but here's what happens. If another person, say for instance, if you are in a relationship with them and you know how laws are working now. So if you are in a relationship, it's best to disclose. The spread can also be caused by use of dirty needles. And that's still a very prominent thing, especially in our society too. A lot of people in the Black community are still shooting up. And because they are still shooting up, there are things that we also have in place, an SSP, which is a syringe services program. So we do one-to-one exchanges for people.
Right, I have a few questions for you. The first one is, what are the possible charges a person might face for intentionally giving HIV or AIDS to someone, for lack of a better word?
It is an aggravated, whatever they determine, it would be an aggravated charge. And as you well know, if anything has the word aggravated on the front of it, then that means that you will get a higher sentencing for a crime.
And my next question is, where can people get the prophylaxis? Can they go to their PCPs for this?
I'm glad you asked. There are a number of services that actually provide them for free. Of course, you can still go to the health department. That's still a thing. What we are doing in the communities here in West Tennessee is we're providing them to beauty and barbershops. That's a great place to have them, simply because that's the one place where people feel safe and they have conversations about things like sex anyway. So what better place to, I mean, your average 15-year-old kid who has gone to get his haircut for the last 10 years from the same guy is probably going to go to him if he doesn't have another figure in the household to ask him some questions about prophylactics. And it's great that that person would be able to say, hey, I got some in the back, or look in that bowl right there and get some. That's the goal. There is a website that you can go to in order to get a lot of this information. If you there is that will give you resources no matter what state you're in, no matter what area you're in.
Do you all have crisis counselors on site for people who test positive?
We currently do not have anybody who is on site. Another one of my friends has a nonprofit called Eagle's Nest. She's out of Jackson. So what I've done is I partnered with her. And so for a person that I know is in a crisis situation, I'm able to contact her, and one of her counselors is able to immediately step in, especially if we're talking about suicide prevention, because that's a very real that's a very real thing as well. There is a crisis hotline that we also have access to, so that if a person is exhibiting behaviors that are more behavioral than a person is able to handle, at least they have a telephone number that they can call for a crisis hotline so we can get them the help that they need.
And since we're talking about preventative care today, I do have a question. It might be a little controversial.
As you can tell, I don't have controversies, not on my.
Okay, so I remember a woman named Jocelyn Elders from the early 90s. I believe she was the first Black female Surgeon General. And she caught a lot of flack for promoting masturbation. And I wondered if this is something that you all ever talk to people about as a preventative measure to prevent STIs.
It's funny you should ask. Yes, that is another thing that we have had a discussion about. And one of the things that I'd like to do, I haven't done it yet. It's in the making, but I'd like to partner. So if she's listening, I'd like to partner with Candy Creations, because what I'd really like to do too is they do still have parties to sell product. Because seeing product, we used to call them fun parties back in the day, but they have a new name now. And in those parties, though, it was very educational. I want to partner with her so that I can present some of the same information I'm presenting to you about getting tested, about sexual health, but also to tell people that some of these toys are going to save lives, because when you have urges, and it's much better to go in a drawer than to go in a club. And so I want
That's a
people to
bar.
understand.
Oh Lord.
I know. I whip them out every now and then.
Have to make them
Yeah.
believe out of me.
Man.
I know that a rose will not take care of all of your sexual needs.
I don't know
get
that,
that.
Miss Gwin. They say that's I don't know that Miss Gwin. They say that's the one going.
They ranked that up there, huh?
Yeah, that's like I mean, you.
It is highly ranked. Okay.
Creme de la creme.
Yeah.
And I am completely aware of its high ranking in life. But also, I do know that personal touch is meaningful, especially for women. And I think that is one of the reasons that we have such a high percentage of HIV still in the African American community. Let's just be candid, like I hadn't been that all day, but there are a lot of people who, if you think about it, and I talked about 1992 to today, right? So there are a lot of people who also switched up on us over the years, right? So a person who, let's just say in their 20s and 30s was they were being more sexually aware. So they may have had multiple partners. They may have even called themselves bisexual. They may have frequently been engaged in threesomes, both with females and males. And so now they're in their late 40s, early 50s. Many of them have never been married, and now they're choosing to choose a mate. And no matter who that mate is, whether that mate is male or female, you need to get tested. Because over the years you have, struggled with your own sexuality, whatever that may be. And I think that a lot of the spread of could be mitigated by just going to get tested, especially if you have any new partner. And if that partner explains to you that they have been engaged in sexual activity with other people, then you need to get tested no less than once every 6 months for the next 2 years. Because just like a virus can sit in, and I use this all the time, they talk to us all the time about shingles and how the virus can lay dormant in your system for a number of years. And think about it. When did y'all have chicken pox? Did y'all have chicken pox like in the last 10 years? No, right?
I was like
Most people did
5,
not,
laid up in the
right?
bed with a onesie
And
on.
so if a virus can lay dormant in your body from, you said 5, right, Coach Scrap?
Yeah, I was like 5 or 6 years old.
And then and when you are 60 or 70, it can reinvent itself as shingles. What would be the difference in any other virus? And let's talk about HIV. It is a virus, right? So what makes you think that virus couldn't lay dormant in your system for a number of years and then just present itself?
Yeah.
So I just want people to know that, like PrEP is the actual name for it. And it's a medication basically that can reduce the risk of getting HIV.
What do you think? What do you think goes into like I don't want to say they don't care no more, but like, I mean, it's not even a thought. Because like when I was growing up, high school, when I first went to college, and it wasn't everybody, so I'm not saying it was too much different, but I remember being women. It's like, nah, hey, go get that over there before we do anything, or they'll mess up the whole mood and constantly looking. Hey, still on there? Like folks was making sure.
Yeah,
and it's to the point now you can meet somebody at the club tonight and go home, do your thing, and not use any type of protection. Don't care about what's going on or anything.
I'm gonna let Nika answer that question. So Nika brought up a very good point, right? We don't want Nika had a very good point earlier. It's because we don't, it's a stigma that there are a million different stigmas that are out here. And what Nika brought up earlier was an excellent point, because they don't want to be ashamed. They don't want to feel like they're not sexually free. They don't want to feel like, because, if I'm competing with somebody who last week you did a threesome with, that's a high competition.
Sure is.
Right?
Bar is high.
Right. The bar is high. Right. And so, and don't get me wrong. I don't think that as many people are out here having as many threesomes as they say they are. But I also think
they be lying.
Yeah, I think they lie. But I also think that if they're not lying, that we do need to protect ourselves. Yeah. And I think that, just like in 1992 when it was spreading and people were saying that it was only spreading amongst, to say, gay men, we know that wasn't true.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not true today. So we need to stop saying that HIV is, and HIV and AIDS are only things that are happening in the gay community. It's not true at all. And I think there are a number of things that are happening in our society today. Yep, we're more open about having sex, but we're not as open about talking about it.
Yeah.
So and the information is out there. So it just boggles my mind that we are not more proactive on protecting ourselves. Yeah, even the statistic you gave, and I'm a big. They'll tell you every podcast I'm throwing out numbers, so I'm that person, right? 40. I just have to repeat what you said. 47% are Black women, and when you look at the numbers population wise, we're what 12 to 13%. It's the Black community. If that does not wake you up, right, and make you start protecting yourself and being more proactive, I don't know what will 40. That's almost 50% of each case, like,
new
and it's Black
cases.
women. Like, we have to protect ourselves. And just like Coach said, back in the day, a woman was like, no, you got to get it. And I'm single, and I'm in the latter category that you said, the 44. Look, but I'm on the early side of that. Okay,
Look, the very early side. Say it
the
right.
very early side.
Yes.
But my experience has been that you really do have to make men. My experience, I can only speak for mine, right? You to protect, because that's not on their mind at all, and so it has to be on ours, especially when you have a number that says 47% are being infected. That's mind-boggling.
Now you correct though. It's not on a man's mind. He get an erection. You ready to stick that thing, whatever.
That's it.
You ready to? You don't care what it go in.
Yeah.
It could be a cactus on the other side of the thing. You don't know.
And here's the thing with that too, Coach Scrap. That mindset hasn't changed from 1992.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
In 1992, when the numbers were extremely high, the same thing was happening. People were just doing what they wanted to do at the time. And there wasn't a thought process that went into it that says, hey, I need to protect myself, right? And so
Freaknik was going on in 92. I remember that.
I was just about to say that. So
Uncle Luke knew was coming to town.
Yeah. So we grew up, and that's where I was going. We grew up in the era of Luke, of y'all are laughing, but we grew up in the era of Luke. My car went to Freaknik one time. I did not.
Come on, that big Gwin. Come on, that big Gwin. Come on, there.
People are looking. My girls are looking all in the video, trying to figure out if we're in it.
That's her story, and she's sticking to it. Okay?
And that's my story. And I'm sticking because my car was there. I'm looking to see if my car was riding down the streets of Atlanta. The thing that if you really think about that, we grew up with Luke, and we grew up with just booty music. Let's be realistic. That's what it was back in the day. You had music that was a lot, and it wasn't a lot more free. If you go back and listen to stuff like from the 40s and 50s, those songs are a whole lot more risque even than the songs that were out during my day. But then the songs and the spirit of being sexually free that was out there from 92 really to about 96. That was a thing about being open and more honest about your sexual experiences. That opened up a huge door for us to talk about it more, but to do less about it. So we stopped again using condoms. And I said this one year. I went with a girlfriend who worked in a club in Atlanta to watch her purse while she was upstairs and I stayed downstairs.
Purse watch.
Yes. I'm not gonna say I was security, but I was a purse watcher. But even then, there were people who would, come downstairs in the club, and they would take young ladies like, in a back room. And I just thought about how crazy that was because, and I thought to myself, I could make some more money by having prophylactics down here and selling them, right?
Yeah.
And just being a reminder, just as people walk by, hey, got these if you need them.
You're gonna stop a lot of people from doing stuff.
Real life, right?
Like,
And now I do that in
do
real life, right?
They might put you out,
right?
Let me throw something in here. I've been waiting to jump in here. So let me say this, because Nika B has made some points, and I think she said how folks were not really wanting to even mention using a condom. I think Scrap may have said something about breaking a mood. Does anyone think that it might be a correlation in the increased competition for men, especially Black men, that a lot of women don't want to rock the boat? Because you know what I mean? When you say that 47%, I'm thinking there has to be a lot of recycling, meaning it appears that there might be a large percentage of women that are going for this for a small group of guys. So what do you all think about that?
I would agree with that.
That's very true. And when you look at the number of Black men who are incarcerated, whether it's for a long period of time or a short period of time, and women may have to seek relationships outside of what their normal relationship would be. I think that also plays a part into it as well. When you have people who are not, when you find a man, let's talk this through. They also say too that more than 30% of married men are at the very least able to have a relationship outside their marriage.
How many are actually doing that approximately? What's reported?
A lot of us are doing what we're supposed to be doing.
I know that, but
Black men don't
are
cheat.
how many
Black
are
men don't
reporting
cheat.
that they are actually in outside relationships, outside of their marriages, if any
Right.
at all?
And how many of those people are actually going to admit to it?
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure
In
that is very low.
A lot of
They're
I don't
not
think a
gonna-
lot of them have anything to admit to.
Well, and they may not.
In
but
an ideal world, you may be right,
in
sir.
an ideal
However,
world, that would be that would be what
We're
you
talking
would
about
want.
reality today.
But the reality of it is, thank you. The reality of it is that that's what I talked about divorce and death, right?
Right.
We are out here chasing. No men who are 50 years old are being born into the world today. So it's the same pool of men, right?
Mhm.
If it's the same pool of men, then the issue is going to be that you're going to wind up with, so there are less men because of incarceration, because they have gotten married, because they are in situations outside of a male to female relationship. Those three things are huge factors. So like Pop said, the pool of men is shrinking, has shrunk.
I'm going to add another category, Miss Gwen, that a lot of people don't mention. Because of all of those things that you mentioned previously, men's demeanors have changed. Because back in the day when I was a young whippersnapper, we were more in hunt mode. Men actually had to chase, and so the dynamic has changed. So a lot of guys, they're laying back and kind of being picky.
I also think that they can the dating sites contribute somewhat to more reckless behavior. Meaning, if I was lonely back in the day prior to, I just might end up going, roll over, going to sleep, or using the rose, whatever. Y'all mentioned, right? But I'm saying now I can just pull up and it might be, 10 men that want to hook up, and I'm not saying that. And so it's reckless behavior and it's at my fingertips, and then we expect everybody to be disciplined in that, and they're just not. And the numbers show it. Sorry.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, though. I mean, it's right there. You ain't got to really do much at all.
You don't have to do anything.
You got the internet. You got
there's no ties. I don't have to have connections.
No.
And you can set up a date or not, right? You can have that's how people now are getting catfished, right? They talk we think it's so crazy for somebody to be in love with somebody they've been talking to for the past 2 years. I never saw it.
I definitely think it's crazy.
Right. I mean,
what's wrong with you?
I'm in love with them. And then when you meet them, you're like, oh my God, they're not at all my type. You've never met them before. So there's a possibility that they won't be. And there are filters and all kinds of stuff that you can use in order to impress somebody. And so the first impression is gone. And I tell young ladies that all the time. First impression, for the most part, is gone because you are connecting with them electronically instead of in person.
Yeah.
And so your first impression is really your 50th impression because you talked to them online for 3 months,
Right.
and they were hiding behind filters and makeup and a number of other things.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then when you see them, how let's talk this through. We see people now from the chest up. We don't see the whole thing.
Right.
And so then when you do see the whole thing, you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, you got to submit full body. Submit full body, see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well, all your Facebook pictures from the neck up. You need to know what's going
At
on.
an angle. Huh?
Yeah, what's up, man? What's up?
and you can see the arm up, right? I think that that has created, Tanika and Pop's point, that has created a false sense of security. They're looking for that connection. And whether that's a love connection or, like Pop said, a hookup or whatever it is, you're ready. And you think that that person is just as ready as you are, but you don't know what all other things that they have done or have, or have been into over that time. Right.
Right.
And I think that drives us to the 47% where we're out here with in reckless behavior. And we're not protecting ourselves. We're not monitoring. It used to be your girl would stop you from doing something stupid, but your girl isn't stopping you because she doesn't see what you're doing because you're doing it online.
And so with that being said, do you encourage people who are in committed relationships to still get regular testing?
Yeah, you still do need to get tested because that's what I was saying too. Even once you have gone from a piece of a relationship to a real relationship, right? It's important that you get tested those first 2 years every 6 months anyway. I think when you look at how many people will actually lie to you just for the point of keeping you, right? They'll lie to you to I'm never going to cheat on you again. This was a one-time thing. I never was with anybody else. There isn't anybody else that's in my DM. I'm not talking to, the girl that's in my phone is, my best friend. She's not there's nothing else going on with us. There are a number of things that come up, and it goes both ways. I'm not seeing him. That's my boy. I have, I've I only had 3 partners in the
Yeah, you
last
lied. Now
3
you lied.
years.
You lied.
I have only, I'm only seeing you right now. I'm not seeing anyone else. And even when we talk about and I talk about members like of and I say this all the time, and I say this out of love for people who are in a transitional period in their lives. Because if you are, say, transgender and you are out here not expressing to a person that that was not what you were born as, and you are in a committed relationship with that person, I don't care how you look at that, that's a lie. And it would be the same as if that person was telling you that they weren't cheating with somebody else. And it's an even bigger lie because then that person has that person would have the opportunity to make a decision on their own as to whether or not they wanted to continue a relationship with you. And you might be surprised that that person would be okay with the relationship. But
Pop, you have a
not,
question?
I want to ask you something on that point because I want to kind of go back before that. You said if a person was in a committed relationship, it would still be a lie. I just want to know not only your opinion, but to the panel. If a person is, has trans, let me see, I'm unsure of the right way to say it, but a person is carrying themselves as the sex that they were not born as, and they were pulling it off relatively well, if you know what I'm saying.
So
And a person, I'm sorry.
So if they're transgender,
right. So, and they're pulling it off extremely well, meaning you don't know that that's not a Big Mac, and you love Big Macs, but it's representing itself as a Big Mac. Is that not a lie as well? Like from the onset
Yeah,
of just
absolutely.
It
the
is.
marketing. When you if it's a Porsche, or if it's not a Porsche, but it look exactly like a Porsche. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like
If
so
it's
that's
a
what I'm.
Porsche with a Honda engine, that's a problem. Because it's not going to drive as well. It's not going to perform the same. And at the end of the day, if I'm looking under the hood, I'm expecting to see a Porsche engine. I'm not expecting to see a Honda engine, and that's a problem. So I think that if as long as you're honest, it's the same about, if I'm a virgin and I'm telling you that and I have a kid. I have a 34-year-old child. I am not
Call
a
that
virgin.
kid Jesus.
Right.
Right. They
That
should have
yeah.
changed the world.
Right. And so it's the same principle, Pops. It's the same as if I said I was a virgin and I'm a reinvented virgin. Right. No, that there's no such thing. You're not any of that. What's done in the dark always comes to light, and it does. And I think that if you're not open and honest about what sex you are, then you can't be open and honest about your sexuality.
I think it's very important to
And
give people a choice too.
you gotta
And
give that
I want to
person
be
a
accepted
choice.
for me, right? And so I don't want you to think I'm not gonna come in and tell you, oh, I'm 5'10". Honestly, I'm 5'2.5" on a good day. So you may be only attracted to tall women. So it's my duty and responsibility. The same thing if somebody tests positive. If there's someone in the world that's going to love you with everything that comes with you. So look and seek that person out, but don't try to be deceptive in that. And that's what I think it boils down to.
But the problem with that though, and I want to stay right there. What happens is you got these 6'10" men and 6'5" men that like short women. It's 5'2".
You and the numbers, yeah. They
And then you got these guys between about 5'5" and 5'8", 5'9". All the 5'2" women gone.
And they got to pick somebody else.
And it goes back to what we were and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? That the population is shrinking because those people are being taken. And Pops, I think it goes back to I want to be loved and I want you to love me for me, but then I didn't tell you who me was.
Right.
Oh wow. Another bar. That's another one you've coined. I love it. I love it.
That's dope.
I oh wow.
I'm gonna have to remember that one for future conversations also.
Oh yeah. Clip that one.
Yeah, but I want you to love me for me, but I didn't really tell you who me was. And I think we have that issue, and that could go for a number of those things that we just talked about, right? Not necessarily just about transgender. It could go about like for somebody who's HIV positive. It could go about for somebody who has an STI, a recurring STI, and they don't know why. When's the last time y'all had a conversation about herpes? Because like herpes didn't go away, right?
Certainly didn't.
So it's the same thing. I say this all the time too. HIV has never gone anywhere. It's been in the background. It's been singing a song. It's been a chorus. You know what I'm saying? It was not a solo act for a long time. Now it's becoming a solo act, and the persons that it is hurting the most are people that it really wasn't running rampant in that area before. Black women weren't top of the line on who was getting HIV back in the day.
So is that why it's a solo act now?
And the reason why it's affecting Black people, because it goes back to what Coach Scrap and Pops are talking about. Women are seeking relationships that they, under normal circumstance, talk about it, Coach Scrap, standards changed.
Come on now.
Things that were frowned upon yesteryear, it's accepted, and I think we are in the judge me not culture. So whatever you want to do, if you want to be with 2 or 3, if you want to have 2 or 3 a night, it's like you can't judge me for whatever I do. But when someone ends up with a is it a STI now? if
Yeah.
you they would probably say, well, you still can't judge me. But I'm thinking, oh yes, you can. And especially with that law we were talking about, if you have that disease and you don't share that, I certainly think you should be able to be judged literally.
No, that's real. That's real. Miss Gwin, I must bring this up. One of the things, and I love the information you gave us, by the way, but I saw that you was a part of the second greatest HBCU.
Tennessee State University. Is that what you're
I'm a Lane College guy myself, so I couldn't just give you number one.
Think, work, and serve are our motto. And I use this in we think differently because we're taught to. We work harder because we know that that is what we have to do in order to get where we want to get and what we want to get, and we serve. So I do all three things in the role that I'm in. I think, and I have to think out of the box. We always have to think out of the box, because thinking inside the box is what is going to keep us in the same place where we are today. And we always want to keep moving forward. And I work hard because I know that if I put in the work that I'm going to see the results. And that's why I do. But if you put in the work, you get the results. And then serving is what you're supposed to do, because our community needs it more than any other community. And that's why I was looking forward to coming on here, because Black on the Block is the epitome of what we ought to all be doing and giving back. Things I think that we're really out here serving communities, and that's what that's what HBCUs are for.
Yes.
Ms. Gwin, let me ask you this. Let me bring it back around. You said December the 1st was World AIDS Day. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. December the 1st is World AIDS Day. There are several different events that are happening. In Jackson, Tennessee, there are actually two events. There's one that Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is responsible for, and it is at, hang on, let me think which church it is. It's kind of like a forum. They will do, I think it's a candlelight visual or either a balloon release or something to that effect on that date. And then on Monday the 2nd, at Lane College, the 10 Chap group, which is the we're a Tennessee community with HIV prevention unit. We're coming together with Lane College. We'll do screening, but it's also a health fair. So we'll have someone there doing some different types of screening that should include, and the health department will also be there too. So the health department takes about 2 weeks for you to get a full culture back, because they do full screening for all STIs, not just HIV. We will be there as Children and Family Services. We'll be there to do the 20-minute testing, so you'll get immediate results. And then we will have the plan is to have a couple of different people to come up and talk about some of the same things that we talked about today, especially when it comes down to prevention. And then so we'll have some Q&A that will be happening for anybody who would like to come in and share in that. That is from 10 until 4 on
If you'll get that information
Monday.
to K. Marie, we would love to be able to post it for sure. That way it's a reminder to people to go out in the community. I'm going to say you've been our first Black on the Block guest. We absolutely thank you.
Yes, ma'am. It's been wonderful.
For the wealth of information. I just want to say that you can tell that you are a true servant and compassionate, very passionate about what you do. And I thank you. Like, just having somebody in those roles who actually care makes a huge difference, especially in our community. So I thank you, the community, I'm sure. Thank you.
Open the door, let me in. Teach us all, preach us in. Turn the cheek, let it slide. Give 5 on the black hand side.